You are worth taking care of yourself. And I think women often put themselves on the back burner. They don't take care of themselves and they think that they're doing a service to other people by doing that, but they're not. Because I truly believe the biggest, greatest gift you can give your loved ones is your own health and wellness. If you're not healthy and well, you just cannot show up for other people as your best self.
All right, team, welcome back to the show.
Hello. Hey.
We've got some awesome stuff we're going to be covering today, which is really not in my wheelhouse. So this is why I wanted to have you guys all on so we could have a discussion about women's health and how important this is for so many of our clients. So we're going to start with the fact that we work with the body's electrical system. Like so often through microcurrent, through energy medicine, we know sound, we know light, all of these things are involved. How do you see supporting the body's energy and nervous system actually helping women to feel more balanced and harmonized? So just so you guys are listening, are wondering what's going on, we're doing a roundtable here. So we have to make sure that the hands go up so that we're not talking over each other. So first off, Andrea, go ahead.
Yeah, I think sleep patterns are going to be a big deal. And finding that you're like sliding into that insomnia or not getting a good quality sleep. Like it's not even so much the amount of sleep that you're getting, but the quality that you're getting are really big indicators of a shift in something going on. So listening to the, side patterns and some background symptoms.
Robin, go for it.
I think to complement what Andrea said, when we're not resting and recovering, our ability to handle stress throughout the day is also negatively impacted. So generally speaking, the women have a little bit more of a workload, whether it's mental, emotional, throughout each day. So we really deserve to be at our very best every morning when we wake up. But if we're not getting that restful recovery type sleep, our ability to handle the swings throughout the day of, not feeling like a bear is chasing us when we're trying to rush to get to the grocery store or pick up our kids or, even find time to feed ourselves, that can really kick us into high gear. So if you're, not able to manage your stress levels and you're in fight or flight, that's a big impact statement for everything else. If you're on that high alert, everything else is usually out of whack as well.
Yeah, interesting point. I think, without putting people in boxes, in my life, women have a tendency to put everyone else before themselves. I think it's kind of like the caregiver role style of things. And it's really hard. Like, I think you always should put yourself first, because if you don't put yourself first, you can't help anyone else. But it's something that's really hard to train yourself out of, right?
Yeah, I would say easier said than done.
Absolutely. All right. And Annie.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, there's a higher incidence of things like Hashimoto's and hypothyroid issues and autoimmune conditions in women when compared to men. And what precedes a lot of autoimmune diagnoses is a period of extreme stress or trauma. And if you think about it, where our thyroid is located, it's also our heart chakra. A lot of women hold in a lot of things. They don't speak their truth. They hold things in. They are the prim, proper young lady, and they, don't talk back, and they don't want to be labeled as overly aggressive or things like that. And there just comes a point where that just sort of bubbles up and it's going to cause problems. And I have various clients who I've worked with over the years who really, really struggle to get out of fight or flight and into rest and digest, like the idea of laying down and taking a nap or reading a book in the afternoon or just not go, cleaning, rushing, doing this, doing that is like so foreign to them that when their body is crying out for that and they now have an autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's, their body is completely depleted and their body is screaming that the nervous system needs something to power them down and needs some help. They can't do it. And so like I see certain people in my life who are on that trajectory that I'm trying so hard to be like, you have to stop this now. Like, deal with this when you're in your 40s, so you are not maxed out and completely trashed in your 80s. Like, please trust me here. And so I think that, things like using the ear clips, vagus nerve stimulation, various different things to help treat this nervous system, it is the precursor to treating anything else with regard to pain, chronic illness, chronic disease. It is the precursor to everything, is getting that nervous system in rest and digest. And it's just such an important piece for women. It couples in with the sleeping, as Andrea and Robin pointed out, and it's just like it all sort of can snowball if you don't get it wrangled.
And I think it's really cool that you mentioned the chakras as well, because this is something that comes down to the emotional stress point. And I was just thinking when you said that, I'm like, when working with patients, how often have I come across a male patient that really needs chakra work? It's a lot rarer, it seems, to be necessary. And even thinking back to when we did the live courses, and we would ask for volunteers for chakras, it was always women that put their hands up first. And it was always like, you've gone through the chakras, what do you identify with? Either sacral chakra or throat chakra. And it was one of those key points of, this is going to be something that unblocks everything for them. And they would go into the blanket, we'd wrap them in the Santa blanket, we put the Viachi on the area, and we just leave them for 30 minutes. And oftentimes they'd fall asleep. And then you wake up a different person. Your energy is able to be restored and rebalanced. And I know we've consulted on so many clients before where we've known that, oh man, if only we could do chakra work, this is where it would unblock it for them. And the emotional traumas that have built up over time that they have not dealt with just explode, right? And that's so hard to deal with in so many ways, but we do have these tools. And you had a follow-up point on that?
Yeah, I mean, just think about, like, I can't remember, I think the last statistic I heard was something like 1 in 3 women has suffered some sort of sexual abuse, and if not that, then they've been pregnant or they've had kids, or maybe they haven't, but they've had, different issues with their female organs. And so then, yeah, we're talking root chakra, we're talking sacral chakra, we're talking, again, that throat chakra. We have a lot of women who, they've been caregivers for their husband, for their children, for their special needs children, so on and so forth. And now they're at a point in their life where they can focus on themselves, and they just don't even know where to start, and they are just trashed, And so dealing with the emotions and the trauma and all of that from everything that's happened previously just will set them up better for everything that they're going to try and heal and do going forward. So chakra stuff, I mean, I've had thyroid issues where all I've done to treat it is the throat chakra work, and then the changes have been tremendous, just clearing that, so.
Yeah, and just that's it, right? The body is this overarching energetic system. Once you clear the blockages within it, then these things can flow. And these can be in tissues, they can be in energy projections, they can be wherever. They're just, it's all part of this cohesive system. And I agree with you as well on what you said there, that they've been caregivers, they've been dealing with their kids or their husband or whatever it is for years, and then suddenly they're in a position where they can put themselves first, and they don't know where to go. They don't know where to begin. And almost like their body is finally like, okay, we're done. And it just, everything that they've worked so hard to keep down so that they can do what they need to do just pours on out, right? And then where do you go from there? Then it's now, and some people, it's sort of similar to not knowing how to live without your diagnosis, right? You've gotten past fibromyalgia, but now you're like, well, why am I? Who am I? It's a similar position. You've moved through that, and where do you go from there? Okay, so let's move on to the next point here. We've kind of already touched upon this, but stress obviously plays a huge role in health overall. Across the board, it's major for people. Now, you guys work with so many different clients in different capacities. From what you've seen with clients, how does this chronic stress show up in their bodies? And what ways do you recommend, I guess we can go microcurrent, non-microcurrent, that they use to start calming their nervous systems down? Andrea.
Vagus nerve stimulation, number 1. Ear clips are going to be a big deal to help bring down everything out of that fight or flight also. But the biggest thing for me in clinic is treating the body as a whole, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, right, it is all And we've even touched upon this already. Like the stress can be held in different parts of the body than you think it is, right? We know the vagus nerve and the brain and all of these parts are in sync, but it's an overarching holistic approach. The whole body plays a role in this. And we see this from protocols where you can treat a sore throat through treating the shin. And it's weird to people. They're like, why? But that's how interconnected all the tissues are. So absolutely. Robin.
Yeah. And, I'm going to say going more natural if you don't have your microcurrents, set up by you, getting a hug from a friend or family member, hugging yourself, gentle breathing, good nutrition, making sure you're nourished, just taking a walk, getting some vitamin D. There's so many things we can do for ourselves to help minimize, that inflammation and complement the microcurrent when we are able to do that. But if you're in the middle of your day and you're away from home and you don't have your gear with you, you need to be able to handle that. Humming can help regulate your vagus nerve. It's not quite the same. I don't think as, treating with our protocol, but even limiting your caffeine, limiting your alcohol, there's so much that we can do to help ourselves. And then build on top of those foundations with our microcurrent to minimize. Because I don't know about you guys, but yeah, a lot of these things, and especially if I'm stressed out, sometimes the first thing to go is my nutrition. So I'm eating for convenience, not for, for nutrition. So staying on top of that can really help you avoid getting further down your rabbit hole so you can, move forward from there.
Yeah. There's a foundation we have to work on here, right? Like what we put into our bodies, how we treat our bodies. Like these things are not something that we can just zap away with microcurrent. We do have to look at that's kind of why Andrea said too, right? We got to look at the body as a whole. We got to look on how to nurture it for sure. Annie.
Something I've seen with various people is when they start to do this work and they start to move out of fight or flight and into rest and digest, sometimes they feel exhausted. I've had people come back to me and they go, okay, I did vagus nerve stimulation. I felt very calm and relaxed. And then I was exhausted. And I'm like, yeah, because you're finally in rest and digest and your body is going, hey, we're really tired. And so rest, and some people are like, well, I don't have time for this. And I'm like, then you're not going to heal. If you don't find time to be in rest and digest and to catch up on your sleep and to heal your nervous system and to slow down and to take the time that you need to overcome that exhaustion, then you're just going to get back in that cycle of fight or flight. You're just going to get back in that cycle of pain. Like it is a part of the healing process. And I actually had someone return their device because she was like, well, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to be tired. I don't have time to be in rest and digest. And I was like, okay, then you're not going to heal. So what you're saying is that you don't have time to heal, and that's okay. That's your choice. You get to make decisions for yourself, but that's what you're really saying. And so you have to understand that it's going to be very difficult for you to actually overcome your conditions and your issues if you're not willing to take the time to rest. And she really was not happy about me saying that, but I was like, part of my job is to tell you like it is, like we try and do it with love and grace and all of that, but we're not here to sugarcoat things either. And so a lot of people, they do feel that just overwhelming exhaustion. From my standpoint, I'm like, that's a great sign that you are out of fight or flight and in rest and digest. Like, I think it's fantastic when people come back and go, oh my gosh, I slept for 10 hours and then I needed a nap the next day. I'm like, hallelujah. That's great, So it's part of the process.
Super important too, right? As you said, take the time to heal because it doesn't matter if you're doing microcurrent or not. You cannot expect just snap your fingers and to get better. Your body has been in a chronic state for goodness knows how long. And you need to be able to take that time. And yeah, crashing out is a sign of healing, right? Sometimes, I sometimes wonder, like I go to bed after doing a 3 pathways and I'm like, I don't toss, I don't turn. I wake up in the exact same position I went laid down in, and it's been 10 hours. And I'm like, whoa. And it feels kind of groggy and weird, but it's the healing process occurring, right? And your body needed that. It really did. Andrea.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out there on top of everything that everybody said is so great, but a lot of times you don't even realize that you're stressed when you're stressed. Like stress is one of the hardest things to notice. It like really sneaks up on you. And as a practitioner, I can see it when somebody comes in, and I've been seeing them, for several weeks. And then all of a sudden, that your whole face changes, that your body posture changes, the energy that you're putting off changes. And so having someone outside of yourself to tell you, hey, you're really stressed, you might need to take some time, that would be a good boost, help out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great point. And Robin?
I was just going to reiterate that, in certain cultures, it's this, how much can we do in a day? We're obsessed with working, we're obsessed with pushing past what we're actually supposed to be listening to, which is our bodies and our minds and our hearts, and so I would say at this point, rest and decompression are almost like an active art. You have to learn the art of rest in a lot of situations. And it is a foreign concept to many of us. I mean, it's amazing how we'll just ignore our basic needs to continue to go, whether it's based out of fear or, peer pressure or culture or, what you're surrounded by or who you're surrounded by. But, it is extremely important. It doesn't take away from the fact that rest and decompression are a must.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of a learned skill, isn't it, nowadays, to be able to
Mhm.
actually take the time to rest. And it's something that you can tell, especially as someone gets older, where their energy levels just do not exist and they're tired all the time. And you can tell that they've never learned how to rest. And it's unfortunate because we're talking about stress, we're talking about sleep, we're talking about all of these things. And sleep is one of those things you don't just catch up on. Like, you can't just say, oh, I didn't sleep for 2 months, but now I'm sleeping through the night, so I'm fine. It's a gradual buildup, right, of a debt that you are owing yourself as you go through. All right, so the next question. So hormones. Well, these affect nearly every system in our bodies. So working with clients, what are some of the most common ways that you might see hormonal imbalances show up physically that women might not immediately connect to hormones? So Robin first.
There are so many choices to choose from. There's so many symptoms that we experience as women that may be directly correlated. Ones that I've personally experienced are things like temperature regulation, being hot or having the sweats at night, being cold, not being able to stay warm, hair loss, thinning hair, acne, adult acne or new skin issues that crop up that you've never had before, are just a few. And, maybe I feel like, at least me personally, I'm like, oh, I must have eaten something that didn't agree with my skin. Oh, is it actually a food sensitivity or is it something else? So there's so many ways to go about this, but there are also so many symptoms that could potentially clue you into a hormonal imbalance.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of hard to balance, like, why is this happening to me, right? You're right. You typically would think, oh, I must have eaten something to suddenly get that little bit of a rash, but it could just be a thing.
Well, and sometimes it's a craving that leads you to eat something that's maybe different because of your hormonal imbalance. And then your, skin plays the part, or the craving is maybe, the clue. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
but those are some that come to mind.
The mystery of hormones.
I
Annie.
don't know. I sent my husband this thing the other day on Instagram. I sent it to my brother and to my husband because my sister-in-law is soon to be in perimenopause. I'm definitely in perimenopause, and it was just kind of like, hey guys, just a heads up, and part of it, the guy was saying, like, on average, a woman's hormones are level and not fluctuating about 3 days a month. And my husband was like, what? And I was like, yeah, dude, we're all over the place all freaking month long. Like right now, I'm in the part of my cycle where I want to eat everything. And my energy's not all that great. There are parts of my cycle where I feel really locked in. I've got tons of energy. I'm killing it in the gym. It's just we're so kind of like all over. And I think one thing I've noticed is, like, I do hormone replacement personally, and it has helped so much with things like even dry eyes can be a sign of low testosterone. I mean, there's so many things that can be related. And so one thing that's been really helpful for me is working with a holistic, a holistic health practitioner, a holistic doctor who has me do my blood work at particular times of my cycle and really looks at how this value relates to this value relates to this value. Like in Western medicine, they'll just look and go, oh, your testosterone is fine. Or, oh, but it's like, okay, but how does it relate to my progesterone at a certain time of my month versus estrogen versus, there's a lot of interplay. And so you really want to find someone to work with who understands how that all works and is going to advocate for you to do what's best for you to get it balanced if you want. Some women don't want to do hormone replacement, and that's totally fine. But I can say that for me, it's just helped so much level things out. Like there's no need. I think we've had it in our minds in a society that like women go through perimenopause and then they're in perimenopause and then they're in menopause and you're gonna have hot flashes and you're gonna have weight gain and you're gonna like all these things are just going to happen, and it doesn't have to be that way. We're just told that it's normal and that as long as you're getting your period, everything else is normal and fine. And that's not necessarily the truth. And I think it's because medicine for so long has not wanted to really dive into women's health because we're complex creatures. And so we've just been kind of pushed to the side, like whatever, it's fine, you'll get through it. And it doesn't need to be that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I definitely think, you hit one of the nails on the head there. It's like there are specialists that all they do is like HRT. And honestly, it was one of those topics in school. Like I found a lot of the human body fascinating. A lot of it's really confusing too. And I remember when hormones came up, it was like white noise to me. And I look at them now and I still don't understand them. And I don't pretend to understand them. Yeah. They're so complicated because they all interact with each other. And it's something that microcurrent doesn't necessarily have a lot of answers for, right?
We don't. Like we can help you with mood stuff by using vagus nerve stimulation and ear clips. And, we do have the gynecological protocol and we have things that can touch on it, but it's not going to be the thing.
No.
So when people come to me and say hormone imbalances, it's like, okay, well, first off, what, like, do you know what those imbalances are? And two, like, microcurrent is going to be a very small piece of the overall puzzle of getting that balanced.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrea.
Well, you guys already just said what I was going to say. So it's all interconnected. The hormones come from so many different organs and so many different places in our body that you kind of have to do the testing, like Annie said, and figure out what the thing is that is going to be the one for you, right? And then move through that. And mood swings are a big deal, and getting the right supplements or essential oils or food or whatever it is that works best for you. So I mean, yeah, you guys pretty much covered it all.
Well, thanks anyway. No, really good point. And Robin?
Well, and I was just gonna say to give whoever's listening a potential pep talk. Even if we can't treat the root cause of a hormonal imbalance with microcurrent, that may not be an opportunity to resolve that. We can still treat most of the symptoms. So if it is thinning hair, if it is, your adrenals need some help, if it is the mood swings and the stress levels, we do have ample protocols for things, of that symptom type. So there is some hope to help manage those symptoms, but ultimately we just can't offer, hormone therapy microcurrent protocols essentially. So, we do have brain fog protocols and, all of those supportive measures. So we can offer you that guidance, but we just, microcurrent is not that end all be all for hormones specifically.
Yeah. And so then it's helpful for us to know what the symptoms are that the person is experiencing, right? So when someone just says hormonal imbalance, it's like, okay, but how does that show up for you? Like I have a client right now who, due to low estrogen, she's having a lot of irritation in her vaginal canal. Everything's dry and it's inflamed. And it's like, great, we're going to use the vaginal attachment to help bring some circulation and blood flow and whatnot to the tissue to help lower inflammation and that kind of thing. So yeah, Robin makes a really great point there. And that's when it's helpful for us to know the symptoms that someone is struggling with. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're always looking, and this is the nuance of all of this. We're always trying to treat the root cause, but sometimes the only option is to treat the symptoms. And that's okay too, because sometimes that's all people want. They want some relief. And there's fixing things, and then there's helping with things, and this is where microcurrent can almost always be an adjunct therapy. It's always something you can add on. Maybe it's not the primary fix, but it's something that you can use, and so you will always be able to use it for different things. As we're seeing here, through all of these complex issues, there are constant staples being brought up, like nervous system regulation, right? Increased circulation. We can help with digestion to get the nutrients we need. But it's all part of the bigger puzzle that we have to work through, for sure. Okay. So this has already kind of been touched upon too, but there's so many different life stages for women. And I know that men experience them too, but it's in a very different way and a very condensed way. And I don't think that we really notice these things as much. But for women, through all these different life stages, there's puberty, there's pregnancy, there's postpartum, perimenopause, menopause. It feels like it never ends, right? It just continues. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see women facing in these transitions? And is there anything that you think actually really can make a big difference for them? Andrea.
Well, I just want to throw out the whole of the teenage section of this, because I've got my teenager at home, 14 going on 15 or 30, depending on what day it is. So we have found that vagus nerve for her has helped regulate things, and treating the symptoms like we were just talking about when she's going through her cycle. She doesn't really click on that level of my cramps are causing my mood to shift. But she can come downstairs and just be this lioness of a person, and she doesn't want anything that you offer her. But I can hand her the microcurrent and not say a word, and she'll take it and do her things, and then she'll come back, and then she loves everyone. And she may have only treated 2 things, but she knows what to do with it, and it is enough to shift her entire mood for the rest of the night. So, I mean, it is helping a ton if you just apply it. Even as a angsty teenager that doesn't want help with anything, she still knows that it's helping her.
Yeah, and it's such a complex issue, isn't it? Because it's something I think as well, like, girls don't know what they're getting into. I think, like, I've heard, like, friends when I was younger that were, like, excited about getting their period. I can't wait till I get my period. And then they get it, and then they're like, oh, so that's what this is all about, right? And it's a beginning, because we even say, like, you get to this point where you get through puberty, it's begun, and then you know that you've got an end to the period cramps at some point. But then you get a whole bunch of other things coming at you too. And it's just so unfair that you have to go through all of these different things. Okay, Annie. Oh.
Yeah, I saw a woman the other day on Instagram. She's like, I did the math and I have like 300 more periods to go on average. She was like crying. And I was like, I feel that, man. I am so sick of this. And I wish I'd known about microcurrent years ago. I'm one of those people who often suffers with really bad menstrual cramps. And boy, I tell you what, I slap conductive pads on my lower abdomen and I will run 7 to 12 hertz for hours. And it is life-changing for me. It used to be before I was just, in the fetal position by my toilet for hours, So now it's like I feel like I can manage it a little bit better. But again, I'm just going to come back to the nervous system, the ability to really through life stages and all the ups and downs and whatnot, to be able to, because I thought I saw somewhere somebody said that in like the caveman days, we were in fight or flight 10% of the time. And now we're in flight or flight, like the minimum of 80% of the time. And so anything you can do to just get yourself into that calm, relaxed state, it's going to be better for your heart health, for your brain health, for your gut health, like your joint health, for overall inflammation. Like it makes every other thing that you do work better. Like my massage therapist, one of the first things she does is she works to get the nervous system on board and slow down before she ever does anything else. Because if she goes digging into a muscle and the nervous system's amped up, it's not going to matter how hard she digs, nothing's going to work. And so just the ability to affect the nervous system is so, so crucial to kind of managing the waves and the bumps of getting through life.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned as well the fight or flight thing. We are truly in fight or flight that much of the time. And it seems weird and confusing to think that when you lived in a cave and you were having to hunt animals for a living, just to stay alive, you had less stress than you do now. But it truly was like what life on its basic level is about is a roof over your head and food in your belly. And if you can have that in that moment, that's where they would peak. Like that was like, now I can relax.
They were grounding all the time. Think about it. They stepped on the ground, walked on the ground. You know what I mean? Like they were so connected to nature and earth, and their stress was running from the woolly mammoth chasing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, dealing with traffic and, it's just life is so much more complex now.
It's where am I going to find the money to pay this bill? How am I going to afford groceries because the prices are going up, the gas prices are going up. There's a war over here or a war over there, or the weather's really bad. Like what's going to happen to this? Like now we worry about everything. We truly do. And social media does not help with that. Just going to say that one. Okay. So yeah, really good points. And Robin.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everyone. And I just wanted to say, too, for what kinds of support can help a woman throughout her stages is, getting to know her body, asking questions, whether it's to, in reflection to, herself, using a holistic practitioner, finding a community that is a sounding board and, just a support community. I feel like WebMDing yourself to death is never a good idea, but there are forums, that people have found value in, and, they're like, you don't have to suffer, through your changes alone. And it is a beautiful thing to be a woman, and our cycles are meant for, a multitude of reasons, and, including, conceiving, etc. But regardless of why our bodies are doing this, we still, I think, having a better understanding of what the cycles are, every 7 years, our hormones kind of shift. I mean, it's ever changing. So being able to understand it and, feel like you're seen and honored and, this is part of my journey is important to do as well. But, when you're in pain because you have cramps, or, when you're in pain because you have joint issues, throughout your cycle and your back is killing you, things like that, having increased pain will increase your systematic stress, and, the coping goes down. And so keeping those symptoms at bay will really help a lot.
Absolutely. Yep. And Andrea.
Give yourself grace. No matter what life stage that you're in, like Robin said, find somebody that is in the same life stage and bounce ideas around. But I mean, the biggest thing is don't compare yourself to them, but, find the like-mindedness and definitely give yourself grace.
Yeah, absolutely. Robin.
One of the best things I have is a community of women who are in different, stages of their life, ahead of me, behind me, because then they can also, share what they've experienced, and then, to the younger generation. Like it is a sisterhood, essentially. And it's just really nice to have that ability to learn from others and be like, oh, you have excruciating lower back pain throughout your cycle too? Oh, me too. Like, let's stick some conductive pads on and feel better, So
Well, I think it's super important as well what you just said to find this like connection where you can talk to people, because to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think this is something they talk about in school and really in the depth that it's at now.
no.
No.
Yeah. And it's like, they just throw you in the deep end and say, yeah, you'll be fine. You're going to get a period. Maybe that's what they tell you. And that's it. And you could get pregnant, and then they leave it with that. And I think there's so much stuff that is truly like a mystery. And I know that when I was younger, they would separate boys and girls so we didn't get the same sex ed classes. I don't think that's as common now, but it is kind of like there was nothing ever that I was aware of that was like, well, what's menopause? I never would have known what that was until I started working in the health field. So yeah.
Hell, I'm in perimenopause and I'm still learning new stuff all the time. I'm like, wow, that's happening. Oh my God, I had no idea. I just saw something the other day. I was like, oh, well, that explains a few things. I had no clue. Like, it's wild. Well, I literally know or told,
Yeah. And while, you're being an angsty teen lioness, your mom is probably going through perimenopause and that poor creature too. Like,
Yeah.
even though everyone's just going through it. And it's, yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's scary life. And Andrea,
Yeah, as a mom, I made a decision very early in my momhood that I would very clearly set the boundaries of like what we talked about at home on purpose. So my daughter knew way before it was ever coming up what to expect and the ifs and the whens. And this might be, it may be for you, it was for me, it might not be. I hope it's not. But going through as a parent, trying to prepare your kid for, and that opens up a whole lot of communication in the long run, later on. So as I go through, perimenopause, menopause, all of the things moving forward from where I am now, she's going to get into adulthood and know that she can come to me and talk to me about it and will already be prepared on how to handle it too. So, setting that groundwork for your kids is really important.
I think it is, yeah, because there's so much conflicting information, and nowadays, we're in this position where people can just go online and look these things up, but there's also a lot of false information online. Equal amounts or more of stuff out there is just totally inaccurate, and then you're arming yourself incorrectly. So there's nothing that's going to beat people that have actually experienced something, knowing what it is. It's the same way we look at patients and we say, a patient that's been experiencing this condition has probably got more knowledge of that condition than the doctor that they're talking to. They're the experts. It's them, right? So for sure. Okay, so next question. So from a body work perspective, we talk about tension patterns, things like fascia restrictions, chronic muscle holding. All these things affect things like pelvic health, like circulation, overall well-being. What do you guys think about how this can actually be impacting the body?
Yeah. I mean, go for it, Robin.
Yeah. I mean, our bodies do go through so much. Our, anatomy changes throughout puberty. If you bear a child, that looks different post, delivery. Some people experience C-sections. That's an adhesion, pretty large post-surgical scar. And, there can be long-term complications or challenges if you don't neutralize any scar tissue, that may have been caused with a tear or, whatever experience you've gone through. So I think honoring what your body has been through, the bumps, the bruises, the scars along the way, and neutralizing the scar tissue is really helpful. I think that, and Andrea, you're our fascia expert, so I'll leave that to you. But just knowing from a scar standpoint, how that can impact our functionality of our cells and, our ability to heal, those are essentially roadblocks. So that can be an unsung, roadblock that people don't think about, but is absolutely extremely important to address in order to have proper functionality throughout your body. Because if you have a huge adhesion on your front side from a C-section, it's going to pull, it's going to cause issues with misalignment, and maybe you're having knee pain now, or maybe your pelvic floor is not functioning as well as it could be. And so it's all connected, we know that, and it's interesting to see how a scar in one area of the body can impact somewhere else in the body.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's all connected. Absolutely. Andrea, did you want to talk about the fascia perspective of this? I have your screenshot right
Sure,
here. You
yeah.
want me to share it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a couple of things about fascia, and if you've heard me talk about what I do or, anything that comes around fascia, you're gonna hear this all the time from me. But fascial tissue has a tensile strength of 2,000 pounds per square inch. So to put that into kind of some perspective, that's like an elephant standing on your thumbnail, right? So it has the potential to break bone if left untreated. So you really have to take into account that the fascial system goes throughout your entire body, It's inside of the cells even. It's not just a connective tissue, but it is like it's the everything, right? So it's a three-dimensional structure. It looks kind of like spider webbing. It's hollow. It carries a liquid called fibrin, and that liquid carries our trauma and electrical impulses and all of the things from one end to the other. It's faster than the nervous system, even. So, the eighth grade science class that I'm sure we all took said the nervous system is super fast and it carries all of your, you know, stuff from one end to the other. But they weren't teaching us about the fascial system, and it is so much faster than the nervous system. And that's why we get burnt, because your nervous system doesn't catch it. It's hot, but it's still gonna, burn the tissue. So the fascial system can even determine how you're shaped, to a point where I have seen before and after pictures of people taking fascial cranium classes, or even going and just getting fascial cranium work done, and their face completely changes. The difference in the eyebrows, the way that the smile lines are curved, the jawline is changed. You don't realize that you're having all these sinus issues, and then you come out of fascial cranium work and you're like, I can breathe. I didn't know what this was all like, But with all of that said, because the fascia system is so big and is carrying all of the electrical parts, that's where, the microcurrent comes in, and we re-electrify everything and try to make sure that everything's balanced. And when the fascial system surrounds an area that's injured, that's what the doctors are calling scar tissue. It's hardened fascia. And so going through with the electrical to rehydrate and neutralize that is going to allow more fluidity in the body. And because we are connected from top to bottom, we also have proof of that. So kinesiology is muscle testing, and you have the meridian system, and you have the points in your ears and your feet and your hands that all connect to the different organ systems, so that's even more proof that everything's connected to everything else. But then some people don't realize that the sphenoid bone and the pelvis, when they're lined up next to each other, they look almost identical. So Rob, if you want to show that, you can.
Yeah, it is. I've just pulled it up.
Okay, perfect. It's beautiful. Like you can make artwork with it. Like I think it's fascinating to me how they both are things that actually move in your body. As a person that works on the human body every single day, multiple times a day, I get to feel that sphenoid float like a butterfly while I'm working on it.
Wow.
It's astronomical, the amount of movement that can happen in a space that you think that there's nothing going on. But
Will you
when
explain where the sphenoid is for those who don't know?
it's in here.
Yeah.
Brainy eye area.
Up behind. Yeah. It's connected to all the things in the thinking patterns, right? So in behind the sinuses, and it's just
So when it's locked down, or the pelvis is locked down, they impact each other, right? Is that
absolutely. Yeah. And you can feel it from one end to the other. You can see it in the structure. If somebody's standing there and you're looking at them and you can see that their hips are off, a lot of times because the fascial restrictions are so strong, you can't physically move that structure. So working on the sphenoid instead will help balance it, which that people are like, I didn't come in here because my face hurts. I came in here because my butt hurts. Well, I'm actually working on that just from over here, but making sure that you're getting the connections pieced together at home is really important too, you know. We haven't touched anything on scalar waves, but scalar in my clinic, I'm seeing that it's actually warming the tissue. That's what it feels like. So if I have my hands on someone and I have scalar waves going, you can feel it just suck you in, and it just gets really soft and starts moving. And I mean, it's amazing. So I
Energy,
don't know.
it's this magical thing, right? Because it's all around us and it impacts us negatively and positively, depending on, we
Mhm.
talked about EMFs in other interviews we've done. And like, we've got all these harmful waves around us, but we've got positive ones we can manufacture and we can put in there. And we've got them in nature if we go find them. But we're all too busy. We're too busy being in fight or
Exactly.
flight mode
Yeah.
to go do
Yeah.
it.
So I don't know if that answers all of your question there, but I mean, when you get into a pattern, you can have cross poles, and it can be from easily a repetitive motion.
Mhm.
And that one repetitive motion that you've done for 20 years, and now you're having this pain, but people don't understand how it's connected. But then when you get a hold of it and you start moving it, then they're like, why am I feeling it over here? Well, it's because it's connected. But then everything from path A to B, shoulder to hip, right, will go completely across the body, left to right. Everything in that path is also affected because the fascial tissue touches everything. And so this shoulder adhesion going to, the opposite hip is going to literally touch every organ as it goes down the path. And that can create adhesions in the bowel. And then you have, an IBS situation going on. So like it literally everything is connected. I can't say it enough.
No.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Everything, and it really is, right? So we have to drive home. The whole body is connected, and it's connected through scientifically proven ways, right? This is not just this idea, like even meridians. It used to be people would say, well, how does that even work? And now it's understood that it's connected through the fascia. It's literally there. It's part of the systems of the body, and we have the capacity to touch it and to heal it. We also have the capacity to mess it up by just being people. And we will do both. I tell you that. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for that. And for anyone listening as well, and you're just listening to the audio version, we often put these on YouTube in video version too. And if you want to see the image we were sharing at the time, you should check out the video version. So on a side here, let's continue our questions. We got a few more to go. So if someone is listening right now and they're feeling off, or they're fatigued, they're overwhelmed, they're out of balance, what are a few foundational things that a woman could do today to start supporting her body and hormones naturally? Andrea.
Find yourself a holistic practitioner, get tested, see where you're at, give yourself a baseline, and then take all of the advice that we've already mentioned and start doing the things one at a time.
Yep, definitely nice and simplified too. Like I think when you get into, if you just go to your doctor, they're just going to do tests that, as has been mentioned by everyone, it's not going to nail anything down. It's going to give you a snapshot in the moment where, as Annie said earlier, you can be fluctuating for all but a couple of days a month, and you're not going to necessarily get the bigger picture. So you need someone that specializes in that, for sure. Robin, had I seen your hand up there? No?
Andrea did a great job wrapping that question up. Great answer. So, yeah.
I think that one kind of is that is the thing to do, right? Is find someone that specializes in this and start working with them on it, because realistically it's going to just help to correct whatever is going on in your body. We are all interconnected. And then we'll hit with the last one. What is one thing that you wish every woman understood about her body that might change the way she approaches her health? Annie.
You are worth taking care of yourself. Like my husband and I, our favorite quote is, I will take care of me for you if you take care of you for me. And I think women often put themselves on the back burner. They don't take care of themselves, and they think that they're doing a service to other people by doing that. but they're not, because I truly believe the biggest, greatest gift you can give your loved ones is your own health and wellness. If you're not healthy and well, you just cannot show up for other people as your best self in your best, most vibrant way. And it's really hard to be there for other people if you are feeling tired, fatigued, depleted, anxious, stressed out, in fight or flight, you're not properly nourished. Like, I think so many women, they don't put themselves first, and it's okay to do that. And it's okay to take care of yourself. And in doing so, you really can be better for other people. So I think that's my biggest lesson. I watched my mom do the very opposite, and I learned the lesson, and I've taken a different path in life. And I really think that for her, it was rooted in not believing she was worth the time, energy, and effort, which is really sad. And so I want women to know that they are worth that time, energy, and effort.
Yeah, beautiful. Well said. Robin?
I would say, as Andrea said earlier, give yourself grace, of course, self-love, but also fail forward. So learn the lessons, along the way, make those changes as you see, mistakes or lessons, that you're experiencing. So just fail forward. Like, we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to always get it right, but we can learn and move forward in a positive way.
Very true. Yeah. Perfection is not something that we should be chasing in life. It's really not worth the time. I could go into a rabbit hole on that one, but I'm not going to. Andrea.
Think outside the box.
Mm.
Your symptoms may lead you to an answer, but you can't always connect them in a straight line to make that picture. Sometimes you got to jump around a little bit, remembering that healing is never linear. You're gonna, like Robin said, you're gonna fail. There's gonna be downs. There's gonna be ups. Ride that roller coaster with grace. And then, as always, drink more water.
Yeah. If you think you're drinking enough water, you're probably not drinking enough water, guys. So yeah, just drink more water. Okay. Well said, everyone. Thanks, team, so much for coming on again, for your time. I think that people are going to find a lot of value in this.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
All right.
Yeah,
And-
thank you.
And to our listeners, we have a lot more episodes coming. I'm sure we're going to be doing more of these roundtables as well, because they are so much fun and there's so much info crammed into what should be a 25-minute episode and keeps turning into an hour. So stay tuned for the next episode of the Pain Free for Life podcast. Take care, everyone.